From KXLY News, this is the Emmy Award-winning News 4 at 5, live from Calgary.
Good evening, everyone. We are coming to you tonight live from the Max Bell Center.
And right behind us is the skyline of Calgary, Alberta. And although it's been raining all day, if you look really closely, you can see it. It's still a spectacular sight.
It sure is. And, you know, all you have to do is walk within the city itself, and you see signs of a downtown that is teeming with life. And just like Spokane, Calgary has a looping skywalk system. Spokane, of course, has Riverfront Park in the middle of downtown. Well, Calgary has Devonian Gardens. But unlike Riverfront Park, these gardens are all inside.
Well, Rob and I have both been inside, and they're just wonderful.
It's really a beautiful place, nice place for workers in downtown Calgary to go and take a little break.
Especially on weather like this. Well, we'll be back with more news from Calgary, but first we're going to go back to Karen so she can tell you the news from Spokane.
As you know by now, many of our News 4 colleagues are in Calgary this week, learning more about our neighbors to the north. Marianne Mishima has taken a close look at the healthcare system in Alberta to see what we can learn from it. Marianne?
Well, Karen, though Canadians have had a national healthcare system for some 25 years, like the United States, is facing some serious cost problems. And Alberta is among the most drastic of examples. People here are nervous about the changes that may be ahead. What their health system looks like in the future is nearly as uncertain as ours.
He'll be in again tomorrow, and he'll decide tomorrow when I can go home. So
good. Okay.
Ruth Fortier is a patient at Calgary's Foothills Hospital. Like many Canadians, she likes national health insurance because she pays little out of pocket for her care. That's peace of mind.
Because I know that being middle income, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor either, that if my daughter walked out on the street tomorrow and got ran over, she could have the best health care that Canada has to offer. And I don't need any more money. I don't have to, mortgage the first child in order to save the second.
How was your day?
That's why the drastic changes she sees coming in Alberta's provincial health system make her uneasy.
Unfortunately, our government cannot continue spending money they don't have.
The final decision will be made by the provincial government. It's critical.
But some are more than uneasy. They're angry. 500 people showed up to protest talk of closing 3 of Calgary's 6 hospitals.
We will not see this institution destroyed.
There are so many empty hospital beds, officials want to consolidate. The system is under enormous pressure to cut back. The new provincial government wants a balanced budget in 3 years. They're cutting $130 million from Alberta's health system.
I might ask you, what would have happened if Mr. Perot had become President of the United States and had been able to implement what he was proposing? Because that's what we have in Alberta. We have a premier that's basically saying exactly what he was saying in terms of budget.
Hospitals in Alberta get most of their money from one source, the government. They get a certain amount of money and no more, and they must treat everyone. One of the ways hospitals hold down costs is to limit the number of people who get a service at any given time. It's been an effective cost-cutting measure, and yet it's beginning to backfire. It was the long waiting list that drove this ophthalmologist to leave the public hospital system and open his own clinic. Like most physicians, Dr. Howard Gimbel always had his own private practice, but most of his fees were paid by the government. A few years ago, Dr. Gimbel's cutting-edge techniques attracted so many patients, the hospitals couldn't afford to provide him with enough beds and surgery space.
So eventually the list became almost 2 years long with, well over 1,000 people waiting for cataract surgery.
The government still pays for many of Dr. Gimbel's surgeries. Yet more patients are paying for services themselves. Dr. Gimbel claims people wanting cataract surgery became impatient with the long wait and were taking their business to American doctors.
You can come right in this way, we're all ready to go.
Likewise, technology such as MRI is so restricted here because of its high cost and the waiting list so long that a few private centers are emerging. This was Canada's first private MRI clinic.
I previously worked in a center where we had 2 magnets, the only center in Canada with 2 magnets, and notwithstanding that fact, we had waiting lists in the order of 6 to 7 months.
Unlike public MRIs, people come to this privately run center for any problem they want diagnosed. About half pay up to $1,000 out of pocket.
We have a pair of muscles out here.
Doctors moving from public medicine into private business is sparking heated debate. Those who leave say they're only satisfying patient demand, and meanwhile taking pressure off a burdened public system. But healthcare economist Dr. Malcolm Brown claims physicians leave the public system and go private to keep their incomes high. He says these doctors create a false demand for high-tech tests and procedures to fill their own pockets.
You get a patient to come to you by giving the patient a perception that they need something which they're not getting and which $800 or $1,000 will resolve.
Just relax.
While Alberta's system is in upheaval, many Canadians are loyal. Their system, with all its flaws, is still cheaper than the American system, and they believe better.
I would never criticize the healthcare in the States because we've always considered it to be very high quality, high tech. But I really questioned whether you really have a system right now because, you know, I say before, you know, with 35, 40 million Americans without health insurance, that to us in Canada is a crime.
Of course, John King was referring to the estimate that as many as 40 million Americans are without health insurance, and Canadians have a hard time understanding that and accepting that because their system covers everyone.
Yeah, and we heard a lot of that on Talkback last night, people that were calling up from Canada that found that hard to believe. As I understand it now, people here in Canada sometimes they'll have to wait, what, 3 to 6 months for open heart surgery?
Yeah, that's what I'm told. You know, their attitude is that it's not necessary for people to get those operations immediately. They monitor them over time. If they start to get worse and they bump them to the top of the list, they say it's too expensive to give everybody every service they need right away. So one of the ways that they cut back costs is to have people wait.
It's really, when you look at it, it's really just kind of a cultural difference, then, isn't it?
It has become that way. They say that American doctors have really trained us to expect to have everything right away and all the high-tech tests, but that has contributed to a very expensive system. So.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the health of the weather now. Here's Steve Mum, and it's been raining, as we understand it, in Spokane. Some really bad weather down there. Of course, if you look outside our window here, it's kind of wet around here as well.
I think the Bow River is running a little bit higher behind us with the rain in Calgary. But yeah, you're right, Rob. Some severe thunderstorms around eastern Washington, northern Idaho. And we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for the Spokane Coeur d'Alene area. Meteorologist Dave Harmon is in Spokane. I'm in Calgary. It's the International Weather Tag Team. A stormy forecast up next.